everyone, and welcome back to my What I Read in July. I'm doing it in a strange place in the car because I thought, why not kill two birds with one stone? So I brought my books with me, at least the ones that I have. One I lent to my daughter. So the first book I'm going to review is called The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. And some people call this a suspense, some people call it a thriller. I call it a bit of a page turner, although I found the characters were kind of, like when people are kind of portrayed as being perfect. Not perfect, but, without any flaws. I find that kind of boring. But it's a good story, and I gave it 4 stars. And the premise of the story is this woman comes home and her husband has left her a note, and the note says, all it says is protect her. Now she knows exactly what that note means and who the her is. The her is his daughter. He was previously married and his wife died. And so now he's remarried and he wants his new wife, the stepmother, to protect her stepdaughter no matter what. So the problem is the stepdaughter does not like her new stepmom and will do anything to not agree with her and be very antagonistic towards her stepmom. Now, throughout the story, they are searching for him. His name is Owen. And they're searching for him and trying to figure out clues that they're getting from his past. And something's happening with his office that he works for. He works in software. And there's been an issue there. And they're trying to figure out why he disappeared. Then on the news it comes that the software company was offering a product and taking money for it, but the product wasn't developed yet. So it was almost like a Ponzi scheme, I guess. And the wife is thinking, well, I don't think he would have done something like that, but you just really never know. So that is the story, and the answers come to you at the end of the book, why he's disappeared, how the stepmom and the stepdaughter's relationship grows. And I thought it was good. It was really good. It was a nice book to get you away from really heavy reading. It was kind of like watching not so much a Hallmark movie, but like a Lifetime movie where you're wondering who's the bad guy and who did what. And so you don't want to not watch, but you want to, you know what I mean? You kind of think, hey, I don't want to watch this same old story, but then you want to watch because the ending isn't the way you think it's going to be. It's that kind of a book. So that's why I gave it 4 stars, because I really enjoyed it. So it's called The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Now, speaking of heavier reads, the next book I read is called The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. Now, some of you might know he's written a lot of books, but of late he's quite known for the TV miniseries called The Underground Railroad. And I did not like that series at all, because I thought in this time of people trying to find out and be educated about people of color and Black Lives Matter and people that are trying to be advocates, trying to be helpful, want to get as much history as they can under their belt. They see a show called The Underground Railroad, and I think they truly expect that it's going to be about the real Underground Railroad, of which there was no railroad. But he took the story and made it into this fanatical, fantastical, crazy, weird. It's like a cross between Roots, The Wizard of Oz, and some kind of circus movie. It's just so bizarre. I could only watch 3 episodes. So having said all that, I was a little bit leery about reading this book, knowing the way he kind of writes. But as much as I love fiction based on fact, that's what this was. So I thought he couldn't stray too far away from it, because this was based on the Dozier School for Boys in Florida. And what it was a reform school for boys in the early, I want to say 1940s, 50s. And whether you were black or white, if you were considered a delinquent of some kind or had done something, you were sent to the school, reform school. It was sectioned off in the black section and the white section. They did some horrible things to these kids, and this is a fictional story based on that school and some of the things that were done, and is basically based on this character named Elwood Curtis. And the school, he calls it, is called the Nickel Academy. And it's he calls it a grotesque chamber of horrors, which it really, really was. And it says here, based on the real story of a reform school that operated for 111 years and warped the lives of thousands of children. The Nickel Boys is a devastating driven narrative that showcases a great American novelist writing at the height of his powers. It's a really good, it's a story on that, but then there's a twist in there. Elwood and Turner are the 2 main characters. Turner's my grandson's name, funnily enough. But Elwood and Turner are the 2 main characters, young men in this book, that become very unusually good friends. Like they're trustworthy, but not fully trusting of each other, I guess. And it's based on those 2 characters, and there's a twist about it. I really enjoyed it. I give this 4.5 stars, and I was so happy that Colson Whitehead actually told the story without going on it like it seemed like he did on the TV series. Oh my God. This is really worth reading. And plus it's the history behind it and what happened. Some of the kids, or the boys, bodies were found on the campus. And the reason I found that interesting is because of late in Canada, they've been finding Indigenous children's bodies buried, at the residential school sites. And this was a school site. And I thought, wow, that happened in Florida too. And it wasn't Indigenous children. It was mostly the black children that were buried there. And the bones were found by a Florida University student. It was a girl, and they were doing archaeological digs around there, and she found a bone, and she showed it to her professor, and she thought it was like a bird or an animal bone, but it ended up being human remains. So they looked into it and found out that these were, I forget how many they found, but there were several bodies that they had found in these remains. So yeah, that's what made me want to read it, and I'm glad I did. Learned again. I always say, if I learn something after I close the book that I didn't know about before I opened the book, I give it high stars. So yeah, I give this 4.5, not 5, but 4.5. And I think it's probably just because I don't like Colson Whitehead's version of the Underground Railroad. I shouldn't be that biased, but it bugged me so much. That's why he's not getting my other half star. Sorry, Colson. But I recommend this read. It's really, really good. And that's why I like to mix it up and read a story like The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, because it's a bit lighter reading and gives your mind a little rest from all this violence and hatred that's in the world, you know. So, second book, Colson Whitehead's The Nickel Boys. And I believe winner of, this is a Pulitzer Prize winner. So that's cool too. So the very last book on my review, because again I read 3 this month, is called The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. Or Dahlia. No, it's Dalila. Zakiya Dalila Harris. And I believe this might have been a Reese Witherspoon. Oh, it says right here, Good Morning America Book Club Choice. Now, for me, I was like, huh? Like, I didn't get it. I don't know if I missed something. I had to go back and watch other people's reviews of this book to try to understand what it was I missed. I think it's really helpful to know prior to reading this book, which I did not know, is that it's Stepford Wives-like. So in the same vein that Stepford Wives is not real, it's fantasy, this is that way because it doesn't read that way at first. The premise of the story is there is a black girl working in an office, high publishing office in New York, something like Penguin Books or something. So she's the only girl of color working in this office, and she's an assistant to the assistant editor, and she's hoping to become an assistant editor. And she's very hardworking, does what she's supposed to do, reads the book, spends all night reading one book so she can come back and tell her assistant editor and editor what she felt, and she's very good at what she does. But what she has found missing is diversity in the office. So she tries to start clubs and kind of awareness groups within the staff and meetings about diversity, and nobody gets it, and nobody really is, that in tune to following or coming to her meetings or anything. So she finds that very frustrating. Now, so I think she's been there for about 3 years, maybe. And then a new girl comes in town and starts working for the company, the other black girl. And at first she's really, really excited. The fact that she has someone, a comrade, someone that she works with that is like-minded, because they're both 2 African-American girls. And she soon finds out, though, that this girl is not all that she appears to be. She starts, the new girl starts to get really chummy with her editor and her assistant editor, going over her head and going into meetings and talking about books and giving her opinions and kind of backstabbing this other girl and setting her up for failure. So trying to find the characters' names instead of saying this girl and that girl. Nella is the girl that's been there for 3 years, and Hazel May is the one that starts working. So Nella is being set up to be kind of public enemy number 1 in the company, and Hazel is presenting herself as the office darling. And then all of a sudden, Nella starts getting these notes on her desk for her to leave the company now. And basically, no one wants you. And she doesn't know who's writing these notes. She can't figure it out. Her best friend, who doesn't work there, says, "Do you think it might be Hazel that's doing this?" So she starts investigating even more and more. And that's the premise of the story, because if I tell you any more, it's going to ruin the story of what happens, because it's quite a different twist at the end of this book. And I honestly put the book down and went, huh? What? Like, huh? I still am a little confused. It's not a hard to read book, but it takes too long to get to the point, and when it does get to the point, they only spend a few pages explaining the point. I gave it 3 stars. I was not a fan of The Other Black Girl. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not recommending this book. I did not like it. And it's hard to say that because I usually like a book. But I just could not wait to be done. I had read so far into it that I didn't want it to be a did not finish kind of book. So I completed the book. But I didn't like it. You may like it. But the part about the Stepford Wives portion is so feebly explained that I still don't get it. I don't get it. And there's a whole bunch of background of people that used to work for the company, and it's just a, I don't know, convoluted mess. Did not like this book. So sorry to the author, but I was not a fan. Could have been me, but 3 stars. So as a quick recap, The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, the one about the husband that goes missing and we don't quite know what happens to him, is a good book. It's a nice read. It's like I said, it's a light read, and it takes your mind off of those heavy books. So I gave it 4 stars. The next book was The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, Pulitzer Prize winner and a national bestseller. And this was a really good book, and I gave it 4.5 stars, and I told you why I'm keeping the other half star, because I did not like his take on the Underground Railway. So, good book. Again, fiction based on fact, which is my favorite genre of books. And the very last book is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delilah Harris. I like her name. No, this is a thumbs down for me. 3 stars if they're lucky. Didn't like it, didn't get it. Could have been me. So that's it for the books for July. So let's say I've been reading 3 books a month. So we're up to 21 books. So I'm on book number 22, which I started August 2nd. And we were just at Costco, and I just picked up this book. It looks really good. It's called False Witness. And it's like a crime, not a crime, but where there's a case in front of a judge, and all. I love those kinds. So, what do they call it? Well, what do they say? They go, he saw what you did. He knows who you are. So it looks good. So happy reading to everyone. And it's really hot here, and I think it's hot everywhere, all over North America at least. So grabbing a good book with a fan and a cool drink, it's a good way to relax and get through the summer, or enjoy the summer. See you next time. Bye.